December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The dawn sky is filled with the sounds of war, the unrelenting roar of aircraft engines cutting through the air. From the decks of U.S. battleships and aircraft carriers, the personnel scramble as the Japanese bombers descend upon Pearl Harbor, releasing a rain of destruction. The air is thick with smoke, the sky darkened by the rising plumes of fire as bombs explode, ripping through the steel hulls of American warships. The sound of gunfire mixes with the shrill screams of sirens, signaling the devastation unfolding below. In the chaos, one man stands apart from the immediate fray, not wearing the uniform of a soldier, but the practical garb of an engineer. Charles. Casey Brown, a quiet and introspective man with no combat experience, watches the destruction unfold with an unshakable calm.
He is not a man of violence, but a man of innovation. Brown had never known warfare on this scale, but he knew something vital. If the U.S. Navy was to have any hope of turning the tide of this war, it needed to do something that would utterly
change the landscape of naval power. The existing methods, traditional battleship engagements, slow torpedo bombers, and outdated aerial tactics, were insufficient in the face of an enemy that had outpaced the U.S. in speed and strategy. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor has demonstrated the importance of air superiority, but it also highlighted a vulnerability. Japan's mighty carriers, which launched such devastating strikes, could also be vulnerable to well-executed, precise torpedo strikes from aircraft. Brown's mind begins to race with the idea of what could be a torpedo bomber capable of launching from an aircraft carrier, a weapon that would give the U.S. Navy the means to strike Japan's own fleet from the air. In the months following the attack, Brown is relentless in his pursuit of this vision. Working day and night with other engineers and military planners, he formulates a plan for a new kind of torpedo bomber, one that could launch from the confines of an aircraft carrier deck, strike with devastating force, and return to base, without being shredded by enemy fire. A dream, some might say. Yet in the heat of the March 1942, United States, Grumman Aircraft Plant. Months have passed since Pearl Harbor. The United States has been thrown into the heart of the war, and the need for a new kind of weapon is even more urgent. In an aircraft hangar tucked away, at the Grumman Aircraft Engineering Corporation, Charles Brown's idea starts to take physical form. The existing torpedo bombers, the outdated Douglas TBD Devastator, were already proving to be slow and inaccurate in their attacks. They were plagued by mechanical failures, limited range, and an inability to evade enemy fighters, leading to high casualty rates among the crews. The new design would have to address these shortcomings. Brown envisions a bomber that would be faster, more durable, and capable of withstanding enemy fire while still delivering a torpedo to its target with deadly accuracy. He works closely with the engineers at Grumman, constantly refining the design, knowing that every decision could be the difference between life and death for the men who would fly it. The TBF Avenger, as it would eventually be called, is a leap forward in naval aviation. It's powered by a powerful 1,700 horsepower Wright R2600 engine, capable of reaching speeds that make it much more formidable than its predecessors. The design includes a more streamlined fuselage and reinforced wings capable of carrying a 2,000-pound torpedo. But what really sets the Avenger apart is its ability to fold its wings, allowing it to be stored efficiently on aircraft carriers, a critical design choice that allows more planes to fit in the limited space aboard these vessels. The first test flights of the TBF Avenger are a revelation. The roar of the engines as it lifts into the sky is a sound of defiance, a stark contrast to the dismal noise of the battleships sinking at Pearl Harbor months before. Brown watches as the plane performs above expectations, its speed and maneuverability, a stark contrast to the lumbering Devastator. But there's still much work to be done. Testing reveals issues that need refining, adjustments to the torpedo release mechanism, more robust handling during tight turns, and adjustments to the pilot's visibility in the cockpit. Every detail is scrutinized. Every challenge is met with relentless determination. The TBF Avenger. June 4th, 1942. Midway, Atoll, Pacific Ocean. It's the early morning hours over Midway Atoll. The blue expanse of the Pacific is dotted with ominous shadows as the U.S. Navy prepares for what will become one of the most pivotal moments of World War II. Midway is under threat from the Japanese fleet, and a battle is looming that will decide the fate of the Pacific. The Japanese forces, led by some of their most powerful aircraft carriers, are already advancing. If the U.S. Navy fails to strike first, it could result in the loss of the island and potentially the entire Pacific campaign. Lieutenant Commander John C. Waldron, a seasoned naval officer, climbs into the cockpit of his newly assigned TBF Avenger. As he straps in and runs through the pre-flight checks, there is an undeniable sense of foreboding. This will be the Avenger's first real combat test, and the success of the mission hinges on its effectiveness. The stakes couldn't be higher. Waldron knows that these planes, though powerful, are vulnerable to Japanese fighters. If they are to succeed, they must strike hard and fast. As Waldron's squadron takes off from the aircraft carriers, their engines roar as they climb into the sky. In the distance, the Japanese fleet begins to come into view. The sight of the fleet is enough to send a chill down any pilot's spine. The Japanese carriers Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu, with their planes ready for launch, are imposing. Enemies. The TBF Avengers, though outnumbered and less experienced, press forward with resolve. They dive through waves of enemy aircraft, narrowly evading fire. With every turn, the Avenger proves itself a capable adversary, its speed and maneuverability allowing it to dodge incoming attacks. Waldron and his squadron close in on their targets, the carriers. At the crucial moment, the Avengers release their torpedoes. The sound of the payloads hitting the water is followed by an eruption of violent explosions as they strike their targets. In an instant, the Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu are set ablaze, their decks crumbling as flames engulf them. What was once the pride of the Japanese Navy is now reduced to smoldering wrecks. The Avenger's torpedo has struck with surgical precision, sinking 4 of Japan's carriers and shifting the balance of naval power in the Pacific. The battle has turned. Despite July 1942. The skies over the Pacific. The Battle of Midway is a resounding victory, but it is only the beginning. The Japanese Navy has been crippled, but the war in the Pacific is far from over. In the wake of the victory, the TBF Avenger becomes the central weapon in the U.S. Navy's arsenal. Its torpedo strikes, proven effective at Midway, are now being used in successive battles, from Guadalcanal to the Philippine Sea. With each mission, the Avengers prove their worth, their ability to strike with deadly force and return to base, without being overwhelmed by enemy fire. As the war progresses, the TBF Avenger becomes a symbol of American technological innovation, resilience, and courage. The aircraft is used in countless missions, and its pilots are celebrated as heroes. The once inconceivable idea that a torpedo bomber could launch from an aircraft carrier has become reality, and it is changing the way naval warfare is fought. Charles Brown, the quiet engineer who first dreamed of this impossible weapon, watches as the TBF Avenger takes its place as one of the most iconic aircraft in military history. His invention has altered the course of the war, and in doing so, has proven that American innovation and ingenuity can overcome even the most daunting obstacles. The war in the Pacific will continue, but one thing is certain. Brown's invention will have a lasting impact on naval warfare for years to come. As the sky over the Pacific remains a constant battlefield,